glad to hear everybody awake earlier, because that means the odds of you falling asleep now are probably a little bit lower than what they normally would have been. So, good job. Glad everybody had their coffee. It's okay, Christine. Just lay out. There's 3 or 4 chairs next to you. You can lay down. So, how's everybody doing this morning? Good, good, good. I was going to come up here and pray for the Holy Spirit to come in this morning, but I'm pretty sure I heard it come in the building during our opening prayer. Did y'all hear that? That was pretty cool, wasn't it? I like that. Tell you what, we're going to do it anyway. So let's go ahead and get this started. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this day. And Father, I invite you into this building here today with us. Father, you're welcome here. Father, you're wanted here. I pray that you come in this building. I pray that you touch every heart in here. I pray that you open all the ears. Father, I pray that you put me aside and speak through me. Father, I pray that you humble me and move me out of the way. And Father, I pray that if anyone needs to hear this message this morning, that they hear it, and that they know what it means. I pray these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Who's ready for Thanksgiving? I don't hear the excitement. I don't hear a lot of excitement coming from the peanut gallery out there. Okay, I can tell that most of the people here this morning are the ones that are going to have to cook by the silence. So, yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, if you remember a couple of months back, Corbin did a message on attitude of gratitude. Y'all remember that? I mean, I really went out on a limb this week since it's Thanksgiving and thankfulness, and so let's build on that, and let's do graduating in gratitude. I was listening. But for sake of saying thankfulness, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there and announce it, and I'm going to publicly say thank you to God for this one. After Tres Dias, it was really put on my heart that I needed more time in my life. Because of the drive back and forth to Houston, the drive back and forth everywhere I was going, I didn't necessarily think I had the time to commit to this church and to the other things that I needed to do, and I prayed about it, and he brought me a new job. I wasn't looking for it. I was open to it, but they called me. And this was all within 2-3 weeks of after Tres Dias. So I've started a new job, but part of that new job is there's a couple, 3 days every week I do a lot of driving. So, for example, I left here, 2 weeks ago, left here, drove to Gainesville on Monday for a meeting, stayed there for 2-3 hours, drove from Gainesville over to Paris, spent the next day in Paris and got done in Paris and then drove back home. The next week I drove from the house down to Corpus Christi over to San Antonio, spent the night in San Antonio, did what I needed to do the next day, then came back home. So 2-3 days every week I do a lot of driving. So that being said, I do a lot of listening on YouTube. That's kind of my time because it's kind of hard to read and drive. It's fairly well discouraged. So I try not to do it. But I was listening to a podcast, and a lady on there, I think her name was Renee Brown. I haven't had a lot of time to dig into it, and regardless of who she is, where she is, what she is, it kind of spoke to me because the words she said were true. You know, she said that her thought processes through most of her life have been to have an attitude of gratitude. But then she said she recently learned that the attitude, and I can't remember exactly how she put it, the attitude of gratitude, that's just a state of mind. That's just a state of mind. That attitude needed to be turned into action. And that's where this graduating in gratitude comes from. And the example she used, which I don't really associate it with, so I'll follow it up with one of my own after that. She said she has an attitude of yoga. She's got the yoga pants. She understands the thought processes behind the yoga. But you put her on a yoga mat and all that's useless. because she couldn't do a handstand, she couldn't strike a pose, she couldn't do anything because she doesn't practice it. So let me talk about one that I'm familiar with my old job. I don't know as much about this one. We played golf 6, 7, 8 times a year at golf tournaments for the company. So I play golf. I played golf in high school. I played on the golf team in high school. I quit playing golf for a lot of years, get back into it. So that being said, I can hit the ball on the screws and I can hit it a country mile. The problem is I have no idea where it's going. And what that does, whenever you hit the ball that far and you have no idea where it's going, you go through a lot of golf balls. So every year through Christmas, I mean, I'm not an avid golfer, but every year through the winter, I don't play much. You know, I don't play much. I don't practice it. Once we get started in the spring, I'll go to the driving range a few times before we play that first tournament. Yeah, it's okay, you know. But by the time we're done with, you know, spring and summer and into fall, I've been going to the driving range fairly consistent. Those last couple of rounds of the year are pretty decent. But then winter hits again. And then we start the process all over. If we don't practice, you know, that's a learned skill. You know, golf is a learned skill. Anybody that knows how to play golf is a learned skill. Yoga, to that matter, is a learned skill. Thankfulness is a learned skill. And the only people in this building that will disagree with me are the ones who have never fed a 2-year-old. That 2-year-old is not thankful, not one bit, for those green beans you're trying to give them. Or the peas, or anything else, you wind up having to wear them. So, but thankfulness is a learned skill. So we're going to dive into that, and we're going to go through a little bit. I'm going to start off in... Is it on? There we go. I should turn the page first, but okay. We're going to go back into Deuteronomy. We're going to go back into Deuteronomy 8. I'm going to start reading at chapter 6, and then I'll stop when I think about it, because I'm sure that's too small, so just listen. Therefore, you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God to walk in his ways and to fear him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks, of water, of fountains and springs, flowing forth in valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you will eat food without scarcity, in which you will not lack anything, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you can dig copper. When you have eaten and are satisfied, you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land which he has given you. Beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments and his ordinances and his statutes, which I am commanding you today. Otherwise, when you are eaten and are satisfied and have built good houses and lived in them, and when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and gold multiply, and all that you have multiplies, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God who brought you out from the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Going through this, something dawned on me. God's gifts aren't going to give you joy. God's gifts aren't going to give you joy unless they're coupled with thankfulness and gratitude. How many people of this world have received God's gifts but have no thankfulness, have no gratitude towards where they came from, that don't acknowledge that the hands that allowed you to dig, because it says right here, and out of whose hills you can dig copper. Go get it. He's telling us to go get it. But he gave us the hands to go get it. He gave us the knowledge to go make it. He gave us everything. How many times do we get caught up in, I did this, I did that, or I got this done, or I got that done? How many times do we forget that God's the one that gave you the hands to do it? God's the one that gave you the knowledge to do it. This verse is talking about being thankful for what you've received. I mean, that's pretty elementary, isn't it? I mean, we teach all our kids, sometimes it's a struggle, What do you say? Thank you. What do you do? Well, what do you say when somebody gives you something? Thank you. Thanks for cooking dinner, Mom. I know most moms probably don't hear that often enough. I know mine didn't. I was kind of a brat, so I'm told. I don't remember. I'm too old. That's probably a good thing that I don't remember. But Moses is talking about the simplest form of gratitude. It's easy for us when somebody comes over to the house to help you clear a fence line, to say thank you and to appreciate that person. But do we thank God for sending that person? We were talking about in Bible study this morning, and I thought it was funny because that's kind of what I already had planned here, and it was already run through my head. But how many times do we thank God for waking us up in the morning? Just that simple gift. Every day that we receive from God is a gift. Do we thank Him for our hands that allowed us to dig the copper? Do we thank Him for our feet that walked over there to the place where we were digging with our hands for the copper? Do we thank the guy that made the shovel? I know this is getting kind of monotonous, but that's why I said, glad you're awake this morning so you don't fall asleep. But how often do we forget that? I mean, I like to think I'm pretty good with it. I mean, I'll just little peek inside the cover. When we lay down to bed at night, I don't even know if Lord knows that I do this. I basically, as soon as my head hits the pillow, I thank God for getting me through another day. And I pray that God wakes me up the next morning to see another one. Because there was a time in my life I didn't know that was going to happen. So each and every day is a gift. Each and every day is a gift. And we need to be intentional. Be intentional with our thankfulness to God when we go through those things. When we're doing those things. Because I guarantee you right now, no, I'm going to save that for later. So, but that is like what Moses is talking about. Well, and the graduation comes in. It's I got ahead of myself. One of the other things that I was listening to, I did forget to tell you this, but one of the other things that kind of popped up, because a lot of times I'll put my YouTube playlist on and just kind of, on the YouTube videos and just let it play through the truck, and I'll just let it go. Well, there was a string of commencement speeches that came on. I don't know why I listened to them, but I did. So there was a couple of cool ones on there. Steve Jobs popped up on one of his. He was talking about, how his failures freed him up to be successful. And then Michael McConaughey came on. That one was pretty cool. I don't remember what he said because I wasn't really listening. But Matthew McConaughey, yeah. What did I say, Michael? Yeah, Matthew McConaughey, and then another guy. But that's kind of where this, we've got 3 commencement speeches going on here that I'm going to talk to you about. Moses is basically like that 5th grade graduation. We're 6th grade graduation. I'm not sure where schools split around here. Ours was 6th grade before you go into junior high. Huh? Y'all 5 down here? Okay. Up north it was 6th. Well, that was a private school, and that was a long time ago, so things have changed since then. But yeah, Moses, what he's teaching, that's like very elementary. That's what we start teaching our kids from day one. But as we get older, we forget about that. We do forget what we need to be thankful for, that we need to be thankful for the gifts that we've been given. And this is where we were at, is thankful for the gifts that we have gotten. David teaches us how to be thankful in the presence of the enemy. And I know all of y'all know what I'm fixing to read. That's still not big enough. We need bigger TVs. Corbin, we got to get those TVs put up. They're sitting back there. We got to get them installed. Okay. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and loving kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It's thought that this was written later in David's life as he reflected back on all the things that God has brought him through. David, in the face of his enemies, one thing that you can say about David is as much of a mess as David's life was. As many times as the wheels came off the tracks, that he forgot about what he was supposed to be doing. In his heart, he always wanted to be closer to God. He always wanted to be close to God. He always wanted to be aligned with God, even when the wheels were coming off the tracks. Several instances, he thought he was doing the right thing. Sometime, I'm not sure what he's thinking in some of them. I don't know that David knows what he's thinking, but that was David's heart. And when he gets older and he looks back, he sees how God protected him. And this is David saying, thank you. David, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, how many times did David go into battle? He took God with him every time. He took God with him every time. I fear no evil, you are with me. He knew your rod and staff, they comfort me. He knew he was safe because he had God with him, and he trusted God. And he thanked God for bringing him through those things. In the face of his enemy, God gave him the strength to battle. God gave him the strength to move forward in the face of whatever we're facing. And here's where I was fixing to jump the gun a while ago. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're going through. There is somebody in this world that would trade places with you this minute. No matter how bad it is, there is somebody that will trade places with you. There is something to be thankful for. There is something to be thankful for in your life. There's something God's doing for you. There's something God's working through you. How many times do we get caught up so much in what's next? Okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And this is kind of for both of these first two sections. That we forget to look back and realize we're already living the life we prayed for. We don't appreciate the life that God has already given us. We don't appreciate the gifts that we've got. We don't thank him. Luckily for us, the God has more patience than the electric company does. If you don't appreciate God, that's okay. He's still there. You don't appreciate the electric company? It's going to be dark this weekend. And they'll remind you every month to show their appreciation. They'll send you this little bill, and if you forget to appreciate them, they'll send you a little notice. They'll give you one last chance, says final notice or something like that. And then if you don't appreciate them, it's going to get dark. They're gone. They're not providing services anymore. God's there. He wants your appreciation. But he's not going to ask for it. He's not going to send you final notice. Hey, if you don't say thank you now, I'm gone. You're on your own. He's there whether we're there or not. But it's on us to be intentional about looking back, about looking what he's brought us through, about looking and recognizing the things. We couldn't have done it by ourselves. I promise you, for them people to call me out of the blue and offer me a job, that was by no hand of mine. That was God working. That was God working. And I thank him for that every day. There's other things that I'm sure I forget to thank him about. I think most all of us can get to this level. I think most all of us can handle, obviously, the elementary level. It's pretty easy to thank you for the gifts that we've received, the resources we've received. The next level, oh, I forgot. Whoop, hang on. Back. Can you thank God because of? Can you thank God even though and because of what you've gone through? David got us out of high school. That was our high school commencement speech. David sent us out into the world. And if you notice, most of those commencement speeches, and that's the one I noticed about Matthew McConaughey's, it was kind of a warning. Hey, everything you think you know, you don't know it. You're fixing to be out in the real world. There's things all around you. There's things going to be happening that you're not prepared for. So let me go over to Philippians 1:12 through 20. And this is Paul in his letter to Philippians. And for those that don't know, when Paul wrote this letter, he was in prison. He was writing this letter from prison. I'm just going to read. Now I want you to know, brethren, that my circumstances have turned out for the greater progress of the gospel, so that my imprisonment in the cause of Christ has become well known throughout the whole Praetorian Guard and to everyone else, and that most of the brethren, trusting in the Lord because of my imprisonment, have far more courage to speak the word of God without fear. Some, to be sure, are preaching Christ even from envy and strife, but some also from goodwill. The latter do it out of love, knowing that I am appointed for the defense of the gospel. The former proclaim Christ out of selfish ambition rather than from pure motives, thinking to cause me distress in my imprisonment. What then? Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is proclaimed, and in this I rejoice. Yes, and I will rejoice, for I know this will turn out for my deliverance through your prayers and the provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, according to my earnest expectation and hope that I will not be put to shame in anything, but that with all boldness Christ will even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. There were people out trying to get Paul killed, trying to get Paul executed in prison. That was their purpose for what they were doing. He had a big target on his back. Paul was thankful in the face of that. regardless of what was going on. There are people out there stirring the pot, just stirring the pot, stirring the pot, stirring the pot. Paul was thankful. What was he thankful for? And why was he thankful? Because he knew his purpose. His purpose on this earth was to spread the word of Jesus Christ, to let as many people know as he could possibly let know. And he didn't care what their motive behind it was. The fact that they were preaching the word, as long as they were preaching it right, more people are finding out about Christ. He was happy with that. He was thankful for that. He was thankful in the face of, this is a level that I don't always get to. This is the level that I struggle with. This is PhD level stuff. High school I can handle most of the time. Elementary school, I think I pretty well got that. This, I struggle with. When people start chirping, it's really hard to be thankful. When you're in the middle of being attacked, when you've got enemies coming at you from every direction. And I tell you, speaking it, the enemy did not want me to finish this sermon this week. It didn't. Every time I would go to research something, the internet would crash. That's why Jim drove by and saw my truck up here several days, because I was having to come up here and work on it because the internet at the house. Every time I would try to research something, every time I would try to look at something, every time I would try to download something, we were right in the middle of the attack. Was I being thankful for those attacks? No. I was getting pretty frustrated. And we all do when we get attacked. Paul was thankful and joyous in the middle of the attack, while he was going through the attack. Now, I can look now that it's finished, I can look back on this week and go back to where David was at. And I can be thankful for what I went through and what I learned out of it and the perseverance that it took to get through that. But in that moment, oh, that was tough. That was hard to get through. But you know something? It shouldn't be that hard. Let's go to Thanksgiving dinner. Let's go to just cooking in general. When Lori and I got together, and she won't be mad at me talking about this, because we both cook the same way. When we first met, I had her over to the apartment one night to cook dinner, and I cooked dinner for her. It's pretty simple, chili and spaghetti. Hey, I'm a man. I'm simple, okay? And then she's like, okay, you need to come over to the house. I'm going to cook you dinner. I was like, what you cooking? She's like, chicken spaghetti. I'm like, what the heck is chicken spaghetti? You know, I don't know what that is. So I'm like, all right, didn't know what to expect. We went over there. I went over there and ate dinner. It was good. I mean, I like it. I still don't know how you make it. You know, thing is, to this day, Lori can't tell you how she makes it. She just makes it. But I cook the same way. If I make something, odds are I can't make the same thing twice. I can cook you a pot of chili every week, and I guarantee you every one will be different. Because it's just whatever I've got on hand we make. But you know something? Over time, Lori cooking at the house, I got to where I'm like, okay, she's a pretty good cook. We had some swings and some misses, but when you cook the way we do and you just go to the refrigerator and go, what, you know, and start throwing stuff together, that happens. You know, I've had some misses too. But you know something? I trust the cook. I don't worry about what she's making me. I don't worry about what goes in it. You know, you're standing there watching. I'm kind of excited when I walk by and I see she's got the garlic out, throwing some garlic in a pot and getting started on something. That's an ingredient. And you don't have to answer this, but who's going to throw a big clove of garlic in your mouth and chew on it raw? It's pretty bitter, isn't it? That's pretty bitter, isn't it? Yeah, roasted's okay. Roasted's okay, yeah. That raw garlic's pretty bitter. Some of the things we go through in our life are pretty bitter. But you know something? I trust the cook. I know that garlic that she's putting in that pot is going to sit together in that pot, crock pot, pan, whatever she happens to be cooking. And at the end of the day, it's going to be good. The things we go through in our life, those challenges that we face, the frustration from this prior week with the internet, the frustration from trying to put this thing together, that was pretty bitter. That garlic doesn't taste good. But you know something? I trust the cook. He's got a plan for where he wants me to be. He's got a plan for what it's going to take to get me there. He knows the ingredients that are going through our life. Our job is to be thankful because of what we're going through. That's a whole nother level. God, thank you for the challenge of this prior week. Thank you for all the stuff that I went through in my life up to this point. Thank you for the lessons that I learned in those. Thank you for where each one of those lessons brought me. Without each and every one of those lessons, I wouldn't be standing here right now. Some of you might be wishing I wasn't standing here, but I'm still standing here. So, every one of those lessons, every one of those challenges, it's an ingredient in that pot. Now, I walk in the kitchen, Lori's in there cooking, I just grab a spoon, stir the pot. I don't ask her what's in it. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Whatever's in that pot is going to be good. I trust the cook. We need to stir the pot in our life. We need to stir the pot every day. Doesn't matter what's in it. God's got a plan. God knows what the end result's going to be. And if that's what it takes to get me there, let's do it. Let's get through it. Because I can get through it. I can get through it. You know, this is one of those verses that gets used, and I think misused a lot. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You know, if you haven't been training and you hop into the marathon and you take off and you go, yep, we can win this thing. I got Christ with me. Yeah, it's not going to work that way. Yeah, that's not how it works. But if you keep Christ with you, if you keep him with you, every thought, every message, everything you're going through, you look to God, you look to Christ, and you be thankful for what you're going through because you know there's a plan at the end of this. There's an ultimate goal. There's the dish that he's making. You just grab that spoon and you just stir the pot and keep going. Keep going. And no, Bo, I'm not giving you a spoon. You don't get a spoon. Yeah. You're going to have to get your own spoon, Bo. So that's all I've got. I just want to say thank you to God right now for everything I've been through. Because without everything I've been through, I wouldn't be here with the joy of meeting all of you people. I would be somewhere else doing who knows what. But God has a plan. And after this week, I know I'm going to stick a wooden spoon in my back pocket and I'm going to carry it with me everywhere I go. And every time a new ingredient gets thrown in, I'm going to stir the pot. I'm going to stir it in and I'm going to try my best to be glad for it. And be appreciative of the work that he's doing in my life. And I pray that each and every one of you can do the same. The challenges that we face, the things that are put in our lives, they're put there for a purpose. There's a lesson to be learned. There's something to be gained out of it. And I know God's got the biggest Thanksgiving dinner in the world laid out waiting for me at the end. And I trust the